All right, Steve Mariucci in the Mondays with Mooch segment. The Greg Hardy set to Steve. Do you think that that the Cowboys should discipline him? Yes or no, Steve?
No, not this week, but they are in full damage control, I believe. And you heard comments from Jason Garrett, you heard comments from Jerry Jones, kind of defending his passion and his fire up and all that kind of stuff. You know, last night when we were doing highlights, Dion and I were watching that, and we thought Dez Bryant kind of instigated something, because Dez is kind of, you know, he can be a loose cannon sometimes too on the sideline. But Dez was trying to calm the guy down and say, hey, we don't do that here. And if anybody does it, I do it.
Right.
But Dez was trying to calm him down after he attacked the special teams coach. So I kind of give credit to Dez for, hey, come on, mellow out. We got to win this football game. And then I read something that Tony Romo spoke to him after the game too. But you know what? This is uncalled for. This is BS is what it is. And if this was the what makes Mooch mad segment.
It is now.
This is what makes me mad. It is.
Go for it.
We just named it that.
Yeah.
Because, Greg, I'm sorry. You know what? I don't care how fired. You're not the only guy that's fired up on this sideline, okay? Everybody on that field's fired up. And you don't go into a special teams huddle and go after a special teams coach or a player or anything. That's not your bailiwick. Stay out of there. Go over there by your defense. And that's bad. That's bad stuff now. He got physical. I mean, I've seen guys yell at coaches or players yell at each other, but you don't put your hands on a guy in front of God and country. So anyway, Jason and Jerry, you know, they kind of defended his passion, fine. But you know what? That's me. I'd talk to him. Happens again, you're done. That's it.
Cut him?
You're done.
You would cut him if it happens one more time?
Well, I don't know if you'd cut him, because you have salary cap ramifications if you cut a guy. You take a little bit of a hit. You might have to just sit him on the bench. But I would certainly discipline him. But that's BS, Rich. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Well, how do you,
what kind of teammate is that?
Well, I mean, that's the question is Garrett, because that's a member of his staff who was being disrespected, right? Now, Bisaccia did go at Greg Hardy too, and I believe is the one who actually put hands on him after Hardy put hands on his clipboard. But I mean, shouldn't Jason? What if you're a member of the staff? Don't you think the staff member deserves Garrett talking to Hardy? Is that what's going on behind the scenes today, or it may have even happened on the team plane last night, Steve?
Yeah, I think everybody's being spoken to. The coach involved, two coaches involved down there, and Greg certainly, and Dez and Tony and all the guys that might have had a conversation or a hand in settling him down. And obviously, it needs to be repeated. This cannot happen again, all right? We're going to go forward. Yeah, we're all frustrated. We'd like to win every game. You know, we're shorthanded right now. But this behavior is unacceptable.
Steve Mariucci joining me here. How did you handle things when T.O. went at Greg Knapp, that famous sideline set to between?
Famous.
Well, it was. And you know, I'm loath to do this a little bit, too, because obviously T.O. off the field and Greg Hardy are two totally different people in two totally different cases. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about on the field of play or during a game, off the field of play, something goes on between a coach and a player. How did you handle T.O. with Greg Knapp after that happened, Steve?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. A little different in that, you know, I'm standing on the sideline, you know, managing the game, and Napper, God love him, he's sitting on the bench back there looking at his pitchers, right? And here comes T.O., and T.O. was giving him some Scud missiles. It was all verbal, and I was not aware of it at the time at all. So it wasn't one of those issues like this Greg Hardy thing where it's on television and it's tweeted out 4 million times and all of that. But it lives. I mean, you know, we still see it on Football Life.
Right.
But Napper handled it well. He just kind of took it and, you know, and said, we're dealing with this guy. We know that. But anyway, that wears thin. You know?
But you didn't basically say, hey, look, I mean, cameras are on you. You don't need to tell T.O. that. I mean, cameras are going to be on him all the time. And now here comes Greg Hardy. They're going to be playing against Seattle next week. The whole country's going to be watching that. It's the only Fox late game in that respect, too. So how does this manifest itself moving forward? Do you think that the Cowboys can contain this thing, or this is something that is going to wind up with Dallas figuring out how to handle this in a different manner?
Well, if they don't contain this thing, it will not end well. all right, for Greg Hardy. He won't be on the team next year. But I think you're going to have players on the other team try to get in his kitchen a little bit, all right, and try to aggravate him. And maybe, I mean, there's some talking on this field that, you know, they're going to try to see if they can kind of get him unglued a little bit, and especially Seattle. So, you know, they need to nip this in the bud right away. Play a game without any issues and get it behind them.
Steve Mariucci joining me here on the show. We played a soundbite at the top of the hour of Chip Kelly being asked why didn't Ryan Matthews run the ball more than once after running one to the house and looking so effective. And he said, speak to Deuce Staley. He's the guy who handles the rotation, the running backs coach. How does this work, the flow chart, Steve?
Okay, so as the head coach, obviously you have authority over whoever plays and doesn't play and all of that. However, during the course of a game, and back up, during the course of preparation and game planning, you have your running backs coach, in this case, Deuce Staley. I had Tom Rathman. He handled the rotation of our running backs, okay? We knew that we wanted to have so-and-so with so many snaps and the other guy with maybe third down snaps and role players. Same with receiver coaches. Same with defensive line coaches. The head coach can't substitute everybody. There's substitution going on almost every play. So he trusted that Deuce would play the right guys at the right times. And yeah, Ryan Matthews had the long run and all that, but just because a guy has a long run, that doesn't mean, hey, put him in, he's going to get another long run. They got a couple other running backs now. They have 3 that are in the rotation, and they're all pretty darn good. You know, if DeMarco Murray doesn't play much, we go, how come he's not playing? You spent all that money for him, and why isn't he playing? So this is just kind of common stuff right now.
But did you ever
let your assistant coaches.
Do you ever turn to Rathman and say, let's go with this hotter hand, Tom? I know that we talked about this rotation during the week in preparation, but
sure you could. Sure you could. Sure you could. Yeah, let me tell you a story about substituting. Okay, this is good.
Okay.
Rich. So I'm playing a playoff game in San Francisco in Atlanta, and Pee Wee, you know, Dwayne Board, he's a big guy, that's why they call him Pee Wee. Anyway, he was substituting the defensive line. All right. Well, Rodney Knox comes to me during the game on the sidelines and says, "Hey, Mooch, Chris Dolman, you know Chris, Hall of Fame, Chris Dolman's mom just had a heart attack in the stands." And I went, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, you got to get him out of the game. We got to tell him that his mom is now in the locker room. She suffered a heart attack." I went, "Whoa." I mean, he's on the field. Here's a drive. Here goes Atlanta. They're in the red zone, Rich. And so I said, "Pee Wee," and he's substituting defensive line. "Pee Wee, get Dolman out of the game." He goes, "What?" I said, get Dolman out. I need to talk to him." He goes, "Coach, he never comes out." And he didn't. He played every snap, all right? He goes, "He never comes out." I said, "Get him out." And he tried to get him out. Wouldn't come out. I walked on the field to the numbers, and I said, "Dole, come here. Come here."
Right.
And he went, "Me?" Because I didn't substitute defensive linemen.
Right.
So he kind of walked towards me and said, "What?" I said, "Get over here." And so he finally came out of the game. This is during a playoff game and a defensive series. I grabbed him by the waist, and I said, "All right, listen to me. You're going to go into the locker room with your trainers and our doctors. Your mom is sick, and she's going to be okay, but I want you to go in there right now and see her." Okay, so we walked all the way around. This is right third quarter. All the way around the end zone and went in the locker room and ended up dealing with his mom. He ended up going to the hospital to see his mom get treatment for a heart attack. But that's just a substitution thing where Pee Wee was trying to substitute him. He wasn't going to come out. But anyway, you let your individual coaches handle a lot of that.
Steve,
by the way,
yes?
Chris Dolman's mom was all right.
Okay,
all right.
I was about to ask you that as a follow-up question. Stay right there. We're going to be back in 60 ticks of the clock. I want to ask you about what Bill O'Brien's dealing with his quarterbacks now that he's got another situation involving Ryan Mallett now missing a plane. That and Chuck Pagano not seeming to be handling all that great the pressure that is under his seat right now. That's Steve Mariucci joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show in a minute's time. Steve Mariucci still joining me for our Mondays with Mooch chat. So Chuck Pagano was given apparently an opportunity to sign for one more year. Didn't like the fact that the Colts weren't going to sign him for longer than that. Said, "I'm going to bet on myself and play this year out." And so far it hasn't been playing out very well. And apparently, being down as much as he was yesterday, the reports are that he called out players by name in a halftime speech or tirade, diatribe, it did seem to light a fire a little bit underneath the offense at some point. But I'm wondering if Pagano doesn't wish he had the opportunity to have another year of security back. Steve, what do you think how he's handling this season so far at 3-4?
Yeah, you know what? It's been tough on Chuck. It's been tough on Andrew Luck. You know, they're winning the AFC South, and they're probably going to win it. You know, but they're just not playing it like expected. And so, you know, and calling out players individually or whatever that is. Some coaches do that quite a bit. So it's commonplace. I don't know if that's his style or not. Sometimes you will challenge a player to play better or to make more plays or whatever that is. Sometimes you will challenge a group of defensive linemen or a group of offensive linemen to take over this game. And you mention names at times. I don't know what. But you know what? Chuck Pagano, come on, let's face it. The guy's been 11-5 3 years in a row. Very few coaches have been able to say that and have that on their resume. So he wanted more than a one-year extension, which wasn't acceptable to him. That's just how it goes sometimes. Betting on himself. You know what? If for some reason they let him go in Indy, he will have multiple offers. The guy's a good man. He's a heck of a coach. We all know he fought through the cancer stuff. But you know what? He's trying to motivate this team to play better, like we expected it. Second half was better.
Steve Mariucci joining me here. What about, have you ever had a player miss a plane like Bill O'Brien had his quarterback Ryan Mallett miss a plane? And he was the backup, Steve. I mean, he had to make it to Miami on his own because they didn't have another backup.
Yeah, well, that happens sometimes. Rich.
Yeah.
So when I was first at San Francisco, we drafted a young quarterback named Jim Druckenmiller. Remember Druck?
Oh, yeah.
From Virginia Tech? Big, strong, good-looking guy. Anyway, so we are traveling to Tampa. Well, he's late for the plane, and I'm a young coach, and he's a rookie, and all of a sudden the guy goes, Coach, everybody's on the plane except one. I go, who? He goes, Druckenmiller, your first-round pick. I go, leave. All right, let's go. So anyway, we left. He got there late. The reason he was late is because the quarterbacks asked him to go buy pizzas and bring him on the airplane. And when he came to SFO, he went to the international terminal instead of the domestic, and he flat missed the flight, okay? So he had to spend like $2,000. He's a big guy. He didn't want to have a coach seat. He wanted first class. So he had to spend his own money to get there. And I love Druck. He was a backup anyway, but,
right.
You know, and then he had, his girlfriend was Julie Cellini, look it up. And so, it's Druck, but the quarterbacks were laughing all the way there because they asked them to buy pizzas for the players.
Okay,
kind of rookie hazing.
So
right?
you were laughing about it on the flight, basically, or
no? I was mad. That could have been what made Mooch mad because it was like, come on, this is our first-round pick.
Right.
What kind of leadership is he showing us?
Right.
But you know, everybody laughed at it, you know, and then he came back with it, and he didn't play until he had to play it because Steve Young got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, well, in the case with Mallett, though, Steve, I mean, he missed a practice because he overslept during the summer. Yeah. And this is
becoming a trend here.
And Houston got waxed. I mean, they got absolutely smoked as Dan Campbell becomes the first interim since Leslie Frazier with the Vikings in 2010 to win back-to-back games to start. I mean, this is pretty interesting story. And they got the Patriots coming up on Thursday, Steve. Do you think this is a magic carpet ride potentially forming here for Miami, or we need to pump the brakes?
Okay, let's talk about interim coaches,
Sure.
okay? And when a team goes into a tailspin, you see it in college. It's happening where guys are getting fired during the season a little bit. And the coach makes a change and brings one of the guys up that can spark the team. Since 2000, Dan Campbell now is the 25th interim coach since 2000. 25th, all right? Of those 25 guys, 7 did well enough to get hired by that team, okay? Hey, you're doing good. You're going to turn this thing around. You should be the coach, all right? Well, of those 7, 6 of them are gone because they didn't turn the thing around. Only Jason Garrett is the only surviving interim coach for the team that he was the interim coach. That's it. And so it's a long shot. Now, Dan Campbell's 2-0, right? You mentioned.
Yes.
He does have them playing hard, and he sparked them, and there's energy. Now, their schedule, I was looking at it, at New England, Thursday Night Football ought to be a good one, right?
Right.
But you know what? That's going to be a hard game. It's a hard out. At Buffalo, Rex has got to get that team going. I think he will. At Philadelphia, that's no easy chore. Dallas, hopefully they have some more parts. And then at the Jets. So this Miami team, I think reality will set in. Mm-hmm. Dan's got them fighting and playing harder, and Sue is sacking quarterbacks, and Tannehill's perfect passer rating. But I think, this happens for a reason. It's because the team is underperforming. Maybe it's not good enough. So making the playoffs, that's a long shot.
All right, Steve, thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. I'll see you Thursday for that Thursday night kickoff before the game.
All right, Rich.
You take care.
All right, thanks.
You bet. That's Steve Mariucci in his Mondays with Mooch segment here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.